everyone. I'm so excited to be here to chat with Claire. We're talking tonight about shared dreams through human design. So I will introduce myself before I turn it over to Claire to talk about the amazing work that she does. But I am Jenn Greiner. I am an energetic alignment coach, human design coach, and previously mental health therapist. So we chatted about this, and it became very evident that there was a lot going on in the dream world through human design. So, Claire, tell us about you and all the amazing work that you do.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Hello, Jen. I'm Clare Zivanovic, and I am a human design analyst, a naturopath, a nutritionist, a medical herbalist, and a children's author as well. And basically, I put all that together and specialize in using human design for health. And I love it. I'm very passionate about it. And I'm very excited to talk about the energetics of sleep today.
I wanted to talk a little bit about the science behind sleep to start us off, because some people know a lot about this, right? Sometimes it's common sense, but to most people it's not, right? We fall asleep, you have dreams, maybe you don't, and you wake up. We know that we need sleep around 8 hours a night, but what actually happens during that time? Right? So there's actually different levels of consciousness that are at work, right? When we are fully awake, coherent during our day, I'm talking about brain waves here, right? What's going on with our brain? What is the energy within our brain? And when we are fully awake, we're in beta. Our brain is making beta waves. And this is around 13 to 20 hertz, the frequency. We are fully awake, we're active, we're thinking, our brain is on. Then when we're resting, right? When we're after we're waking up or when we're lying down, working to fall asleep, we then go into alpha. This is a relaxed state, right? Our brain starts to slow down, especially if you're a projector, those 2 hours before we go to sleep, so that we can wind down and let go of our day. In alpha, our frequency is about 8 to 13 hertz. So it's definitely slowing down. So when people talk about programming your brain as soon as you wake up or before you fall asleep, when you're most easily influenced, you may be in alpha. But really, where the juiciness happens is when we're in theta brainwaves. And this is when we are lightly sleeping, we are dreaming, or you can also enter theta when you're in deep relaxation. There's also gamma mixed in within here too. They're very tightly together. But theta is really where REM happens, right? That's where we dream, the state. And it works at about 4 to 8 hertz. So we are in mindless motion, right? Our brain is still working, it is moving, it is dreaming, but we're not doing anything. Very different from delta waves. When you are in deep sleep, this is where you're at 0 to 4 hertz. Well, not 0, because at 0 we would be brain dead. So you're still functioning a little, right? Your brain is still moving even if you are in deep sleep. This is dreamless sleep. Dreaming doesn't happen. So how it works is we slow down into alpha, right? Then we start to slow down and go into our first stage of sleep, working beyond theta, right? We're dipping down, well, into theta, and then we're going to slow down and down until we get into that delta of deep sleep. And then we're going to come back up into theta, into that light sleep. And this is where we're going to dream. And especially if you're a lucid dreamer, right? It can feel really real because the energy is there and you're in the midst of, am I conscious? No, I'm not. I'm dreaming. So it's a place where your subconscious starts to really come out. That's why if you are in a meditative practice, right, you can really tap into that, like, what realm am I in, essentially, because you're kind of lucid dreaming. And that's where all the magic happens, because the subconscious comes out. We can talk to our higher selves, right? All of this is really happening underneath the surface not in a 3D world, right? This is really where the 5D comes in. So we go through about 4 to 5 cycles of sleep throughout the night. They tend to last around an hour or so. So sometimes you might get more, sometimes you're going to get less. If you are taking medication, if you're using any substances that put you into a deep, dreamless sleep, you might not be getting to float in that theta, which happens for like 10 to 30 minutes. Like if you've ever woken up from a dream and you're like, oh my gosh, like that was a whole day I just experienced. And maybe you took a nap and you're like, well, I was actually only asleep for 10 minutes. Like that's why I feel like the movie Inception does a really great job of explaining all that and the layers of consciousness and subconscious, all of that. So it's in this theta that really works. And I'm so excited to talk with you, Claire, about the human design aspect because it almost like shuts off the body, but the body's still connected, right? Because we move in our sleep, people sleepwalking, but we're still there. It's really all in our mind. So what information can you share?
So many people in human design, as you will know, Jen, say that it's ideal for everyone to sleep by themselves, to sleep in their own aura, because it helps you to maintain more of who you are. Basically, it's a very controversial thought. Everyone seems to have a different opinion about it, and that's cool, each to their own. But I see the understanding behind it because when we sleep, okay, so when we're awake in human design, we have these 9 energetic centers, these 9 energy centers. But when we sleep, it changes. We go from, what's this, vertical to horizontal. We go from 9 energy centers. When we're horizontal, we go to 5. Okay, so we drop the head energy center, the ajna, the heart, and the solar plexus. So when we sleep, from a human design perspective, it's believed that we have no mind because we don't need to think. We have no ego because we don't need one. We have no emotions that we're being produced. Sounds weird as I say it, but the solar plexus disappears. And no inner authority. The other huge shift, actually, before I jump on to the next one, is there anything that you wanted to say about that, Jen?
Well, I'm just thinking, as an emotional who lucid dreams, and I especially had one the other night that I was like, whoa, I am working through some stuff, some big emotions from a relationship 15 years ago that
Oh,
in this dream, this person was there. We worked through what we needed to, and it was like, wow, like here's what reality could look like. So with that example, if my ajna's not there and my solar plexus and my fixed emotional wave, which would make sense because I'm not riding my wave in sleep, but I'm still processing emotions, I guess that's where I'm like, whoa, because I think it's safe to say that, dreams process our subconscious, process our emotions. So I'm like, how does that happen if the energetics of the ajna and the solar plexus are taken out of the equation?
well, it's a good question. So I guess because those things are not there, though, we're also not being inhibited in the usual way that we might block ourselves from processing it. So you could say it's useful. But
Mm,
but to answer your question more, I'm going to make it a little bit more complicated. So we go
okay.
from we go from 64 gates in human design when we're awake down to 15.
And I have to say, I just pulled up my chart to look at my sleep chart, and it reminds me of the chart of a dog.
Yes, yes, because it has the same amount of centers and they're mammals and they're kind of this angle as well. it's based on the same kind of energetics, which is fascinating, right?
That makes sense, that in our resting state at the theta brainwave state, we are simply a horizontal mammal.
The main thing that we haven't focused on yet with the overarching changes in human design when we sleep is that most of us change our energy type. So in the waking hours of the day, I'm a generator. But when I sleep, I become a reflector, like about 70% of the population. And I think you make that shift too, don't you, Jen?
I do, especially because I am a quantum projector. I am an unconscious projector, splenic projector, but I am a conscious reflector. So in the dream state, I am also a reflector with only one gate.
Oh, really?
I
Which
only have gate 42.
really?
Active centers in the dream state I am missing, so I have no active centers in the dream state, but gate 42 is my conscious and unconscious Jupiter, um, which is very interesting because that is the gift of detachment. So to be detached as a reflector would also help explain the shared dreams that I have had with multiple people.
Wow. All right. So we're talking about how we change most of it. So not everyone changes their energy type, but the majority of the population do. So if you look up your dream chart, as we're talking about at HumDes, um, you will know which category you fit into. So about 70% of people become reflectors. So it's the most common. About 15% become projectors. About 17% become generators, and about 1% each become a manifesting generator or a manifestor. So to be a reflector in your sleep and to be really open to what's going on is the most common thing. Now,
And that makes me very curious. Obviously, well, I think it's safe to say reflectors can very easily stay in the theta brainwave, right? Because a lot of people don't sleep. So, whereas we are more sensitive because we don't have any active centers, we might be there. Where I would wonder if the generators, the manifestors, and of course the manifesting generators are more active because they have these active gates that are still, especially motor centers, right? Like if you're sleeping and you still have that defined sacral or root, right, two motor centers, if that would cause you to sleep very differently.
I can talk to that. So let's talk about my husband.
Yes.
When he's awake, he's a manifesting generator. When he's asleep, he's a generator. So he's still got that sacral energy going on. And I tell you what, he is so active in his dreams. Almost every morning, he will tell me what he's been doing, and I will feel it as a reflector. Sleeping next to him, it has become something over the years. We've been together about 14 years now, and at least, and it's become something that I've noticed more and more, that when I sleep in his energy, how much it does shift, not always, but often, my ability to sleep deeply. Now, as a reflector, that helps me feel like I'm not some weirdo. And that, yeah, there is a lot going on when he sleeps, and he remembers it because you tell me all the dreams, but I'll also feel it as well. To go deeper than that as well, I've of course looked quite deeply at his chart, and what we need to understand from a human design perspective in a dream sleep chart is that there are three different, what they call realms or fields. So there's the light field, which has 5 gates within it, which relate to conditioning of the mind or the conscious part of us. there's what they call the demon realm, which is not a great name, but it has another 5 gates, and it relates to conditioning of the unconscious. And then there's what they call the earth plane, and that's where the other 5 gates in. So there's 15 gates where they come in. And this is fascinating to me. This is where there is conditioning from the collective unconscious, which means it's the thoughts and feelings that you're feeling when you're asleep from the other people on the other side of the world, on the earth, who are still awake. Now, I bring this up because in my husband's chart, in the earth plane, which is where you're affected by a lot of the people who are still awake, he has so many gates in that area. I have none. I'm like, you do your thing over there while I'm asleep. But he's like, let's process all the asleep stuff. So it's very different. And yeah, it's very different. It's very active. There's a lot of information being shared, I realize now, while we are asleep next to each other. And there are times now that I will be just get up. I'm like, in the middle of the night, I just need to be in another space because it just calms down my energy. I've always been quite sensitive. It was explained to me once. I think a psychic saw I had a reading and she said, "Oh, your aura is like a weather vane." Like the wind just goes through it and I feel it all. And sometimes I'm like, yes, it is. And I think I'm still like that, maybe more when I'm asleep.
Do you know off the top of your head what your conscious and unconscious design is? Just curious about that.
I think it's reflector and projector.
Okay, interesting. That makes sense. So, as I'm, of course, organizing and simplifying this in my mind, it seems like for sleep, yes, we have our waking state, our knowledge of the quantum of who we are in this plane. Then we have, when we go to sleep, first it starts with the type, right? We're still looking at the overarching of type. What type are you? Because for us, we're reflectors, and as conscious reflectors, we get that, and any reflectors, of course, I think would get that too. But it's different for your husband who's a manifesting generator and then moves into a generator, or for those generators, well, you yourself, generator moving into reflector, like there's big changes. So to really look at your energetic type when you're asleep. And then it seems like there's this other layer of then separating again from centers, which kind of comes down to the light field, that earth plane or the demon realm. And another reason why this conversation started for us was because I ended up on the side of dream TikTok. TikTok, where everybody is talking about their dreams. And I kept seeing people talk about, well, we all know and have learned here when we're in dreams to not actually ask people what the date is. I think this all started from a initial TikTok where someone said, when you encounter people in your dreams, ask them what day it is, because there's so much interdimensional stuff happening. And then there became so many more videos of, no, don't do that. Don't do that because it will ruin it for you. You'll try to make sense of it. Who knows what day in the past, present, future, in other fractals and other, lifetimes, these could be different. So do not ask that question. And then there were so many videos. So there were videos of shared dreams that we'll get to and talk about, but there were so many videos of people saying, I met this person in my dream. We had this conversation. Where are they? Do they exist in reality? And what you just told us about the earth plane of connecting on this collective energy, regardless of where you are in the world, because in our dreams, in our not waking state, right, in the state of brainwave, we're interdimensional. There is no, right, it's not linear. It doesn't make sense to our seemingly small minds. But people actually started connecting through TikTok to say, you were the person in my dream, even though they live on other sides of the world, they have nothing in common. But it sounds like this earth plane, right? They're on this earth plane, and through their dream charts, we're connecting. And because of the beauty of technology and now having access to the world, they were actually able to literally connect on the actual earth plane.
It's amazing and fascinating. And I've not heard that before. But I'm like, why not? It could happen. That also then makes my brain go, what about parallels? If you're connecting with a parallel version.
Right.
Because my husband does it a lot. He wakes up and he goes, oh, we were in the parallel house last night. And it's apparently, I have never, I'm not aware of being there, but he goes there often. We're still married. We live in the same house, but it's just slightly different. We have 2 kids over there. Apparently, I'm more sporty. He tells me that all the time. I'm not particularly sporty here. And I'm just a bit more outdoorsy. But we're both going about our lives. And I was like, yeah, I was just there. And then he comes back and I'm like, oh, cool. So I don't know how you'd interpret.
Well, and that would make sense to the dream that I referred to before, because this person and I have not communicated at all in probably 15 years. Um, so after this dream of like, oh, we've reconnected and it would work, and the conscious me was like, oh, I think he's the one who got away. But perhaps this was a parallel universe where he didn't get away, because the chances of me I mean, sure, we're still in the same region, like the chances of me reconnecting with him, it could happen. I am the incarnation cross of the unexpected, so I'm expecting the unexpected, right? I have no idea what the universe has in store for me, but it just the way that it felt was so real that I feel like there's an energy distinction between seeing the future, right? My spleen does that sometimes. We're like, oh, this is going to happen, and it's a certain feeling, whereas this was a very different feeling. So I would love to chat with your husband to be like, well, how does it feel in that parallel universe, to be like, was this a parallel life where he didn't get away? Very interesting.
He's so fascinating. You could chat with him for days. He will wake up every day. With a different dream, a different experience. It's not just dreams, it's experiences that he has where he feels like he goes elsewhere, whether he's connecting with parallel lives, versions of us, or if he's connecting with people, or people, actually, maybe it's parallel life, people who have passed away, but he feels like he goes to visit them in the time when they were alive, and then he freaks out. What often happens is he freaks out. He's like, in the dream, he's very conscious. He's like, but how will I get back? I'm going to get back to Clare. I don't know how to get back. And he's like, freaks out. And then often someone will say, it's all right, just do this. And then he will come back and he'll be like, oh. And then some of them he'll wake up rested, but some of them he'll come back and be like, oh, because he was so active. He's like, oh my God, I'm so exhausted, because he was doing so much in his dreams. And because I sleep so differently, I'm like, I just don't get it. I'm like, go to sleep and then hopefully I sleep well and then I wake up and I go again. But he's out everywhere sometimes fighting all these battles, like literally he's in walls and he's fighting away snakes, and yeah, there's a lot to process in his conscious world. But looking at his sleep chart, there's so much active things,
Yeah.
active gates within him, that yeah, it helps me understand that he is doing stuff when he's asleep elsewhere. And that for me, I don't always need to be around that. I will just step away and then I will feel more refreshed. And he'll never really get it from my perspective, because he is that very active generator when he sleeps. He doesn't have any reflector energy in him. So
And that was the other part that I meant to say when I was simplifying this into types, right? Because as a projector, I know that there are some people that I can just not sleep with. It's not worth trying. Whereas there are other people, we can sleep together wonderfully. There's not an issue here. So when it comes to, what I've noticed with my projector clients over the years, some projector clients are like, oh, I cannot sleep with my partner who's a generator, or really kind of any type. And then there are others, and this is more of a non-sacral thing, right? This is the sacral. But I have a friend who's a manifestor. Her partner is a manifesting generator. And I'm like, do you need time away from him to sleep on your own? And she was like, no, I have no problems with sleep. We sleep great together. Like, that's never anything. So I've wondered, to be like, okay, is this sacral awake and not awake the issue here? But it sounds like what it really comes down to is your sleep chart and how that works, which still goes to the quantum of, non-sacrals and sacrals sometimes need time apart so that they can get that full rest. But really, it depends on your dream chart and your dream type.
I agree. And I've been sitting with it a lot. And I think what initially got me fascinated in the world of the dream sleep chart is I've had a lot of issues with sleep with pretty much all partners that I've ever had. With I'm very sensitive to noise. I'm like, I want it so quiet. Let's not hear anything. If you're snoring, oh, if you're breathing, okay, I'm going to struggle with that.
Say as a light sleeper.
Yes, as a light sleeper. But what makes that fascinating for me, apart from just a bit annoying, is in my awake human design chart, both of my Plutos, so my conscious and unconscious, are in gate 57. 57 is about what you hear, sounds, frequencies, vibrations. So that's always something, it's something that I need to be aware of in this life that I'm trying to transform, apparently, do my best. But that gate is still there in my sleep chart. It's there in the both, let me check, I've got it here. It's still there. It's in the light fields, in the conscious and the unconscious when I'm sleeping. So therefore, to me, I've still got that energy that I'm trying to deal with, that sensitivity with the sound. It's very acute within me. And when you're asleep, the gates have slightly different names. So the 57, which is general, which is the intuitive, which is the gentle intuitive, it becomes attunement. So you may be attuned to different things while you're asleep, maybe for good or for not so good. You know what I mean? Depending who you're sleeping next to. Yeah. But to take that on a deeper kind of quirky level, if I go back to sleeping with my husband, and I think this is where the 57 comes into it, let's just say he sometimes has experiences when he's asleep. There will be energies that he connects with, whether it's in the room or whatnot. Let's not label what it is. But often it's so fascinating. What will happen is they will be the nights where I will be quite restless for a little bit before. And I'm like, oh, it's getting so annoying. Like I might think that he's loud or something, or even just something within him in me. I'm like, just feel like I need to be in my own space and I can't explain it. And it feels like I'm being guided, maybe through 57, just get up and leave. And then soon after that, he will have an experience. Something will come in. So it's like my 57 energy of awareness of the vibrations that are there, maybe that are going to come in. It's like, I don't need that. I'm going to leave, but I don't get it at the time. And then often he's like, oh, I wish you didn't leave because this happened. And I'm like, oh, I slept well when I left. Sorry to hear that. So I
Does
feel
he
like,
also
yeah, go ahead.
does he also have gate 57 in dream state? Is that defined for him?
I think so. Let me check.
Just curious, because you're essentially getting the intuitive hit, right? That message from the spleen saying, hey, you need to leave. It is for your well-being. But sometimes it can be attuned to the other person's well-being too. So I'm curious if
He has it in the conscious and the unconscious.
okay.
So we both do in the light fields.
Interesting. So I wonder if they're, yes, of course he wants you to be there, but maybe it's in, whose ever well-being that you're not.
Oh, it's definitely for my well-being that I'm not.
Right.
Yeah.
He's already in dream state.
Yeah, he's doing his own stuff and yeah.
Yeah.
He's
Oh, I
I would
love
say when he's awake, I would say that he's very connected. He's very connected to the energies that are around of people who are alive, people who are not alive, maybe other dimensional energies. He's very aware of that, whether different days will tell you he's not, but he is. And I think that's taken to another level when he sleeps.
yeah, I feel like this is so much wonderful new information for me to digest, and I'm so curious what I'll dream about tonight, especially because the energy that is around is like heightened intuition. This is a time to be aware of your dreams. I've been told by multiple people, multiple intuitives, like keep a dream journal. Like now is the time to write it all down, just processing all these different things. Um, so yeah, the definition that people have in the dream state that allows them to channel, right? So, of course, my dog's chart, I actually received through a dream. I had been setting the intentions during the new moon phase to have visions, just to try it out. It is not my Claire. It is not how my intuition works, but I was curious, how would this be? What would this be like? Is this something that I want to grow and strengthen? I've determined it's not. It's just not for me. But I started getting different visuals, and I had been for a long time curious about my dog's design. I do know her date of birth. I do not know her time of birth. She's adopted, foster, whole story. Anyway, I got a clear. Now I didn't even know. Yes, I have seen a dog chart before, but I couldn't tell you anything about it. But I got this clear vision in my dream of her chart, of her definition. It was very clear of here is what is defined. Look at this. This is what it is. So I didn't even remember it when I woke up. It was a couple days later that someone said something. I was having a conversation on the phone, and all of a sudden it came to me. And I was like, whoa, that was in my dream. I now remember this. I have this clear vision. I need to figure this out. Let me draw it out. Let me see, like, does this make sense? Is this even what a dog's chart looks like? So before I could be influenced, right, the conscious conditioning that we receive, I drew it out. I was like, here is my vision. I'm clear on these lines. This is the definition. These are her channels. And then I look up what a dog chart looks like, and I was like, ooh, that it was like flipped around and backwards. Like I must have seen it through a different view because I had to flip it around and rotate it. But once, because it's easy enough, once I did it, I was like, well, here's her chart. Now I have her design. I know that she's a generator, which I already knew that she was. And now I have this. So I must have been right as a dream reflector. I have the ability for all these different things to come to me. I'll share a crazy shared dream story later. But I wonder which plane, which realm, field that came in from.
Yeah. I do not have the answer to that. I have not had a dream like that. I've had human design dreams where I've been shown charts of things and deep understandings, but not an animal chart.
I had been asking for this for a long time, so it was something to manifest. So I feel like being a reflector gives us the ability, where your husband has more definition. He has a fixed, reliable way that these gates are working regardless of his conscious state. Whereas we don't. So these different things can come and go when we're in our own, right? When I had that dream, I did not have anyone in my energy. I was alone with my energy.
Fascinating, by the way. But while you touch on my husband just one more time, just want to add another layer of it's not just the definition. What I've learned is that the gate 15 in the sleep chart is called chaos. He has that. So his dreams are chaos. I don't always like that.
Well, I'm thinking of gate 36 as the gate of crisis. It just makes me curious about how they change.
When you have the 5 and the 15 together, it's the most chaotic channel when you sleep. He has that when he sleeps, not just the 15.
That's so interesting
Mm.
because it's fixed rhythms, in the conscious state. So to go from like, I mean, yes, it's extreme. So I guess that makes sense. But to have, that 515 channel of having this way of life of going with the flow to then sleep to have it be chaotic is quite the the word isn't coming to me, but very opposite.
If you are sleeping with someone who's got the 15 or the 15.5 and it is a lot going on, for me, it's just nice to know and understand, because for me, all of this knowledge is about having a peace of mind, having an understanding, and just it relaxes for me some judgment. Go, okay,
Mm.
this is why. And then when I know why, my brain wants to know why. I'm a details girl, got the 62. I'll go, okay, and I'll let it be. And I won't process it as much. So for me, it just brings peace of mind, if nothing else.
And I'm getting a peace of mind right now. I just pulled out a past partners chart who they are a generator but have that 515 channel. And I mean, he is someone that we do not sleep together anymore because it doesn't work. We don't get rest, we don't sleep well, for just we've learned so many different reasons, from like body temperature to movement and need for space. So for his 515 chaos channel, I'm thinking of a shared dream that we had, and it always felt really chaotic. Now I do not have the 5 or 15,
Me neither.
so it was just this other feeling. And I imagine that was why, because that was one of the first distinct times I became aware of a shared dream, because I was like, this energy is not mine, where am I? And I just sensed, him being right next to me. I was like, oh, this is him. I knew his energy, knew him. I was like, this is his dream, and I'm literally in his dream. And I came to realize I don't want to be here. Like, this is not my dream to have. Like, this is not what I dream about, nor is this the energy that I want to be in. So, there is a big piece to that channel when it comes to sleeping.
There is. I haven't, not that I'm aware of, ever been aware of being in someone else's dream. Maybe I have, but like, yeah, maybe you all have. I don't know. But, yeah, that fascinates me. I'm not a
Well,
sleep dreamer anyway, so I'm not aware of all that stuff. I think the
well,
quirkiest dream I ever had was dreaming in cartoons.
love it. Well, my most recent shared dream, which let me share this part now, because it made sense when I looked at our charts together. So this was a new person that we slept together, and I became distinctly aware that I was in he was in my dream. Actually, that's how it started. I was like, he's in my dream. This is interesting. Met him, he's sleeping next to me, and here he is in my dream. Okay. Come to find out, we both have the same incarnation cross and a very similar design. I have a very unique design as a projector, and he has very similar. So I imagine, now putting it together, he's likely one of my fractals. At this time when he came into my life, I was calling in my fractals. So it would make sense.
Wow.
So I distinctly became aware he's in my dream. Then we went to this party, and there were a lot of people around, and I was like, I don't know where I am. I don't know any of these people. He morphed a little in my dream. And then this woman came up to me and was like, who are you? And I was like, oh, I'm Jenn. Like, I'm not supposed to be here, but like I'm here.
When
And
did
like,
you
do
say
you
that?
Yes, yeah, we had a conversation. And I was like, "Do you want me to leave?" And she was like, "Yeah." And I could sense her jealousy. And I was like, "Okay, well, like, let me try to get his attention and tell him that I'm leaving." And he was like, "No, don't leave." And throughout the dream, he just kept giving me invitations. And I was like, as a projector, I was like, well, he invited me. Like, of course I'm gonna come. And she was just there glaring and just the energy coming off. And she kept trying to get rid of me and just making life really hard. And in this dream, I found it so strange because I was very clumsy and I am not a clumsy person. These little things just kept happening to let me know, like, this is not right. This is not me. So now I wonder if it was a parallel. But so interestingly enough, days later, he had let me know, hey, someone from my past came back into my life. And I think I'm going to, see where this goes and kind of focus my attention on her. And conscious me was like, I would bet money that it is the girl from that dream. So if we ever talk again, I'm gonna be like, so can you send me a picture of her? Wait, is she blonde with her hair back in a ponytail? She looks like this, she acts like this, because I know this woman, essentially.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, I don't do that in my sleep.
So if we have the same design, I would imagine he's a dream reflector because I believe he's a conscious reflector as well. Let me see if I wrote that
So then
in.
I wonder if you have a similar waking chart and a similar sleep chart, if you are capable of something different, because there's also what they call there's portals in the sleep chart which can be activated when you sleep with someone. So I think it's this, I'm just looking at my chart now, I think it's the 17, the 22, the 49, and I think maybe the 38 or the 28. I'm not sure off the top of my head, but there's a bunch of these portals. So if you're sleeping with someone who has that portal, or maybe together you make a channel that forms a portal, where are you going? Maybe you were doing that together.
Just thinking about the relational aspect, if there's an electromagnetic channel, I can only imagine where that could teleport you to.
Yes. And depending upon what transits are happening as well.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
That's a whole nother one.
Yeah. So when I was putting all of this together, I was thinking that it could have been more due to a completely open crown, right? There are times, especially during the transits, that affects my sleep because of these different aspects. And with um two out of the three people that I've had shared dreams with that I know of and have their charts to look at, they have completely open crowns as well. So with that being the downloads that come in and the inspiration, and especially we always get the pineal and the pituitary gland mixed up with the one that connects to sleep and awake in the crown. That was kind of what I was contributing all of this to. But when we put it into the dream chart, it would seem that none of that matters.
Or does it matter? And you're downloading that when you're conscious and it's already there and it gets activated when you're asleep. Because all the
Ooh.
different 15 gates that you have, they act differently when you're asleep. They have different names.
Yes, and that would explain my question from when we started this conversation about without the ajna and the solar plexus, how are we processing emotions? But you're so right that they come in our awake state, they get stored in the body, all of that somatic stuff. And then when we get, like you said, you take the mind out of it, you take the ego out of it. That's where your subconscious in that theta state really gets to pull it out of your cells essentially and make sense of it all.
Exactly, which touches on why I merge naturopathy and human design, because the information is stored in your cells and impacts your health, impacts your well-being, impacts all of you. Because the information doesn't just come and then go. It sits in our cells and expresses itself differently, whether we're resisting it or whether we're allowing it, whether we're asleep, whether we're awake. Maybe different depending upon who we're sleeping with.
And that's why I work with the solar plexus and the ajna in the work that I do to make conscious sense of it, which sometimes is very difficult. And what just came into my mind was a client of mine who's a splenic projector. I would assume she's a sleeping reflector, but it clearly has some definition because through uncovering her splenic authority, we realize that when she really needs the answer of something, when she needs that intuitive hit, like she's having trouble really hearing her splenic intuit authority, it's through her dreams that the answers become revealed.
It's a
Oh,
whole
it's so interesting.
and complex.
So I did have one more story that I wanted to share that leads me to a question for you. So with the only gate in my definition, right, that 42 that I mentioned of detachment, it is in the demon realm. It is about dying. Um, right in what is this? The dream chart, gate 42 is the gate of dying, energy recovery program. So, as you were talking about this and the demon realm, it reminded me that now I have not lost many people who are close to me, but two people that I have come to visit me in dreams. They've come to say goodbye. One was a good friend in college that we hadn't seen each other in probably a year after we graduated, and then she died. And I distinctly remember this dream. You know, it came as a shock to all of us. It was very tragic. It was months later she came to me in a dream and said, I mean, she was vividly there. We hugged. I said, "Oh my gosh, you're here." And she said, "Yeah, I'm so sorry that it took this long to come see you, but like, I had a lot of people to see before you essentially." And I was like, "Oh, that's okay. Like, yeah, I know all your friends, your family. Like, yes, of course you had to see them." So that was the time that we actually got to spend together. And waking up, I was like, "Oh, that was her coming to say goodbye. That was, the closure that I needed to know that she is okay." We laughed, we had our inside jokes in this dream, and that was it. And she never came to my dream again. And then the other was my grandfather, of course, very, very close. He died over 10 years ago at this point. And I was wondering, right? He died after she had. So I was like, is he going to come visit me in a dream? Like, what's that going to be like? And he did. I've had at least two distinct dreams where he's come and talked to me in that dream state. So it was very different. It was more comforting, and it was not like, "Hey, I'm here." It was more of, "I'm here. Don't forget that I'm here, but like I'm with you always," type of thing, not like kind of a one and done saying goodbye. And I had gotten closure at his death too, so it wasn't that aspect. So it's just very interesting with the one gate that I have, that people who I have known have died do work through dreams with me.
That is super fascinating for many reasons. One of them being, as you were talking, I looked at my husband's chart. He also has the 42. He also has people, almost everyone we know who passes away. They will come to him. They will have conversations. They will have an interaction after they're passed. I don't, I don't have dreams like that. But yeah, he has the 42. I don't have the 42. So there must be something in that.
Right. So my question is I'm curious more about this demon realm, right? It's such an odd name for it, right? Like the earth plane makes sense, especially on the collective around the earth in this 3D that we are in, right? That light field being more universal, perhaps other parallels. But this demon realm, obviously it has an aspect of death in it, but I guess I'm asking for more information on it. Like, what sense can we make of how can this be useful to us in our waking state?
I think there's two things that I want to say about it. The first is calling it the demon realm Ra Uru Hu, who named it, he likes to use provocative language. So I think he chose a name that was quite provocative. So it's maybe
Mhm.
not as scary as we think, or as it sounds. It's a weird name. But to put it simply, it's about the condition while we're asleep, the conditioning of the body, the conditioning of the unconscious that happens. So what's conditioning us while we sleep that we're not aware of? That's what it comes down to.
That just sounds utterly imperative to the work that I help clients do of deconditioning.
As I said, it brings for me peace of mind and understanding and less judgment, less control. Because in the waking world, I've got a lot of Capricorn, I've got some Taurus. I'm learning to just relax. It helps me go, okay, that's how it is.
Yeah, I love that, with the demon realm of that the deconditioning of our unconscious, of taking that away is so much of what we need. So to allow for that beauty to be working underneath, to be able to make sense of it, to have this being put together, I feel like is just a whole nother layer aspect as we move. And I kind of recall that Ra talked about this in moving into the new paradigm. Because yes, we're going to be more sentient, but I don't know, I feel like this dream awareness, bringing it into the conscious, will really help us to navigate this new way of life of what am I trying to say here? It's not coming out in a linear way. As we become more sentient beings, right? It's almost that telepathy through emotions, of sensing that needs of emotions becoming greater. This really understanding our dream chart and being able to access this new energy in a different way that sleep allows us to, like, take the mental, or like the tinfoil hat off, so that we really can connect with everyone. um I imagine will perhaps give us some information to apply to our conscious lives.
I agree. And I think it all comes back to being having an awareness of your sleep chart is useful, but even if you don't create your chart, I think it's useful to at least experiment with how it feels to sleep alone, at least sometimes. If you are in a relationship, and see if it makes a difference for you. It doesn't for everyone. Some people just want to sleep together and they feel better that way. That's great. But a lot of people, what I've come to learn is they are in a relationship and they are sleeping together, and because it's kind of a taboo thing or a weird thing to not always sleep with your partner, they're secretly going, oh, but I wish I could sleep separately, but they're not saying anything. And that creates resistance in the body that has to be expressed somehow later on, whether it's through sickness or some kind of.
Arguments with your partner.
Exactly right. So just being open to considering that it's not weird if you want to experiment with just sleeping. It doesn't even have to be in a different room, in a different bed, a little bit, something different. I think to feel how your energy is different, and if it's important to you or not. If it's not, cool. If it is, cool too. Just be who you are. That's all I want for anyone. Just be your authentic self. And that just vibes for me. It's as simple as that. That's all I want for everyone.
Yeah, and having the awareness, because like I've said, some projectors doesn't make a difference to them. But I have some projectors who have to have their own bedroom, right? Depending on their design, especially if they're a caves environment, they need it dark, they need it a certain way, where their partner needs it the opposite way. And kudos to them for really committing to their relationship and not letting this drive them apart, because it is possible to sleep in different rooms. But what I've found with some projectors, because I have a lot of projectors that I know who do sleep apart from their partners, and making it not taboo, because it is okay and it saves their relationships. But many projectors actually do find that they need to be, because our auras can expand up to 12 feet, they need to be 12 feet away from their partner. I certainly have a hard time um, when my mom, who's a manifesting generator, comes. She actually sleeps in this room, and I am just on the other side of that wall. So we are head to head, and I do not sleep well. Even though we are in different rooms, we might as well talk about noises. Like, no, I cannot sleep next to her. We know that. But even head to it's okay. So this is becomes a whole nother thing here that I'm putting together, because when we sleep next to each other, right, it is that dream horizontal next to each other. There's something that happens in the energetic connection there. Whereas my mom and I, when we sleep head to head, it is a different energy. I still don't sleep as well. I am still in her energy, but I am not as connected to her. So just thinking about how auras work, right? They mostly go out, they only go about 6 feet high. So I wonder, I have the ability to expand, but I'm still head to head, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so interesting because the head and the ajna energy centers disappeared. So you haven't got that connection. You know what I mean?
So this came from a projector who had a roommate, and because of how they were, they couldn't sleep 12 feet apart, and she had to move out because it was really affecting her, and she definitely is a reflector. So right, it's different for everyone. Sometimes being under the same roof is not okay. You need to go take a vacation somewhere else. And sometimes it's just sleeping in the same room, just in separate beds, can do the trick.
And it's all okay. That's the moral of
Yes.
the story.
Yes, it is.
I think that's everything that I was hoping to cover in our conversation. How about you?
Yes, thank you so much for this chat, Claire, and I hope this was informational. To everyone watching, leave your comments, questions, your theories, your experiences. We would love to know and just continue this conversation.